Ladies and gentlemen, DB&A Television is proud to bring you a Roar Media production, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. If you do not know him, you better Google him. He was a high school Hall of Famer, school record holder, 10-time letter winner. He was just a boy with a ball and a young man with visions of greatness from the land of Hoosiers. When his playing days were over, he wanted to give back to the game that provided him purpose. He had found his passion on the hardwood. 14 years college coaching, multiple regional and conference championships, multiple national rank programs, coached the National Player of the Year. Winning followed him to 15 seasons professional coaching, multiple championships, multiple Coach of the Year honors, near 780 win percentage. He placed over 100 players to their respected national teams that represented their countries at the World Championships and Olympic Games. He has coached current and former NBA stars. His purpose is now to serve, empower, inspire. Here he is, host of the Coach Scott Field Show. Make some noise, show some love. Host Scott Field.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Welcome to another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter where you're catching us from around the globe, I say thank you. And if you're just cruising down the road in the car, turn us up. Let us put that flavor in your ear, because that's right. It's time to lace them up with the Coach Scott Field Show. And this is where I put sexy in the sports talk. I am thrilled and delighted to have my buddy Bill on here with us today. He's going to share some amazing insights, the mindset of a world-class medal-winning athlete. Come on, you look outside right now, it is winter all over the United States, so no better time to have my buddy on here to talk Winter Olympics. Bill, how are you, my friend?
Oh, Scott, man, I'm doing great. I am so thankful and just excited to have an opportunity to sit down with you and chit-chat and shoot the shiz. And, you know, it's funny you do talk about winter all over the country. You know, if it's snowing in Texas, it's winter all over the country.
That's exactly right. My goodness. I mean, there's Arctic cold all over the place. So I'm sure there's a part of you that's like, man, I need to be out there with that bobsled pushing and getting trained up, right?
Right. You know, and it's funny, too, because everyone always seems to think I love, like, the winter. It's literally my least favorite time of year, but it does remind me of being on several mountaintops all around the world, getting ready to go down that mountain hill 95 miles per hour and having some fun.
See, you say 95 mile per hour in a sled on ice, and I'm thinking, what the heck? But hey, I got to be honest with you. My introduction to bobsled was the movie, you know, the Jamaican bobsled team.
Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings, baby. So that's the only knowledge that I have. I mean, if you look around me, I was a basketball guy, but I do know and understand world-class competition, you know, being in the international arena, and that was so much fun. But let's go back, because, Bill, you've got an amazing story. And, I mean, let's talk about your childhood, who you are, where you came from, you know, how that kind of inspired you to, you know, do the things that you did. So, Bill, please share with us. And I know it's probably emotional and heartfelt. So let's take everybody on a journey.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been fortunate to have the life I've had. You know, I think a lot of people, and they have in the past, take a look at how I grew up, how life started for me, right? And be like, oh my gosh, I feel bad for you. You know, don't you wish, you know, we could have had this, or you wish you could have had that? And the reality is, you know, I don't wish anything different than exactly what I had, because, as you know, Scott, being in the NBA with those elite athletes their whole life and just being in that world, your past, you know, we always talk about your past doesn't need to define your future. But in this case, my past did help define my future in a positive way, because if it wasn't for the things that I grew up with, then I wouldn't have been able to have the opportunity to be the person I am today. And you know, with that said, yeah, we'll just jump right into it. You know, it is what it is. I was born to a mom and a stepdad that were extremely heavy into the drug world. Doesn't matter if you're in Utah, New York, LA, wherever you are. We all see and hear those extreme stories of, homeless people, drug addicted people, alcoholic people, people who live that street life. And for me, that was my life story here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I just remember my earliest memories were not of the greatest, if that's, what we're looking at. But, I remember as a young kid, not even in school yet, my mom was, she was heavily into the drug world. That was her thing, drugs and partying and, having random boyfriends coming over all the time, them getting in fights, literally bloody bath, beat up fights. And I'm just a young kid sitting there watching like, whoa, what's going on? Why are you hurting my mom? And, all the way from that to her friends coming over and shooting up meth and just that prototypical life. That's what they did. And for me at the time, that was normal, right? I didn't know any different. Doesn't mean I enjoyed it, right?
Right. Yeah, sure. I'm sure it was traumatizing to see your mom, beaten up and bloodied, and you're as a child, you got to be thinking, oh my gosh, that's all you knew. And that's what your environment was. It's like, okay, well, this is normal, but it had to be terrifying for you at times too.
Yeah, no, absolutely terrifying, because you never knew what was going to go, what was going to happen. You see all these random people sometimes over your house partying until, the wee hours of the morning. You're supposed to be a kid getting ready to go to school, and people are random, weird people are passed out all over your house, and you have no idea what's going on. And there's alcohol here and drugs laying all around the house, and everything from regular random people to drug dealers to gangbangers and everything in between. It was a scary childhood, and in that lifestyle, it's not a good one. Obviously, we know that when you're wrapped up with those types of people, bad things tend to happen. And my mom was caught up in all that stuff, from selling drugs to getting busted to gangs, to bad drug deals to bad prostitution deals, you name it. And there were times as a kid that my mom had either ripped somebody off for drugs, alcohol, or something else, and I'd be sitting in the living room with my friends, and I'm jumping into about third grade here, and I remember looking out the window one time, and some guy gets out of his car, and he's just pulling out a big hand cannon running towards our house, and I didn't know why. I mean, I had an idea, because that's the lifestyle my mom was in, and I just remember us running for our lives out the back door and running until we couldn't stop. And and along with that lifestyle, comes a whole lot of other things, right? When you live in that type of world of alcoholism, addiction, that street life, now that I'm older, I have a better understanding, but you also deal with a massive amount of depression and low self-worth, right? So there were several times that I would come from playing with friends or break dancing, my mom had attempted suicide, or she did a drug overdose, or just again a bad thing, something really went wrong. And so that was just, again, my day to day. And I, as a young kid, we live in Utah, so we have a lot of LDS members here, and my family home evening was very, very different than most. Getting drunk and getting high with my parents, when I should have been studying school or playing and drawing pictures, right? And so that was my life day in and day out, from the day I can remember all the way up until about 7th grade. And, myself getting involved with the alcohol, drugs, gangs, living that street life, break dancing on the street, just so I can get money to eat food. Because, my mom was always taking, we had state assistants, so she would always take them back then, those food stamps, and exchange those for real dollars so they could actually buy alcohol and drugs. And they weren't ever too concerned about, food in the house. So as a young kid, I had to learn how to either, fold up or survive and thrive. And so breakdancing ended up being one of those things I utilized as a young kid to go out on a street corner and have people toss money at me while I was breakdancing so I could just eat food on a day-to-day basis. And
wow.
I had a little brother also that I had to take care of at a young age too. And so, it was just a very different lifestyle than a lot of people, on the outside in, don't get a chance to see. But, again, I wouldn't take any of that away, because it's led to some really amazing life lessons and lessons I'm still learning today, right? To overcome, adapt, pivot, achieve, succeed, and thrive in this life today. So
wow, Bill, and I appreciate your vulnerability and your boldness and braveness to share that, because I'm sure as you're older now, you can look back at it through your lens and say, you know, I was not a victim of my environment, and I was able to come out of that and find success. And then I saw too where, you know, a person brought you in and then was able to put you in a more stable environment. Now, did that happen before you were kind of introduced to sports and athletics, or was that afterwards?
that actually almost all happened at the same time. There was a situation where, again, you know, one of the things I didn't mention, I was in and out of 17 different foster homes as a kid too. And we were getting on the edge of going into my 18th one because my mom got busted for doing drugs, my mom and my stepdad. So they were going to go back to either jail or prison. And the state gave my grandmother at the time an option that, you know, he's either going to go to another foster home, or if you want, you can take him in. And my grandma had done this a few times, God bless her, where she'd taken me in. And so at the time, you know, for those people who don't live in Utah, I was living in Salt Lake at the time, and my grandma lived up in Roy, Utah, which is about 40-something miles north, as you and I both know. And, you know, I'd moved up there, you know, getting ready to attend junior high school. Of course, you know, I walk in this junior high school completely different than Salt Lake City, right? All very suburbia, nice, you know, all white, all nice kids. Little, you know, Mayberry, if you will.
You're right. No, you're exactly right. You know, because Bill, we have an adopted son who is from the Compton, Long Beach area. He's African American, and of course, when we built a home out in Riverton, and he got involved at Riverton High School, he was like a fly in milk. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. So, you know, when I first came to Roy and attended Sandridge Junior High School, right below Roy High School, you know, again, like you said, a flying milk. I stood out. I didn't belong. But it was my first experience when I walked in and I noticed something different with the environment, with the culture, with the kids, with the students, with the teachers. And it was exciting, right? It was that energy that was just a lot different than anything I'd ever been experienced or exposed to. And I was just like, wow, this is weird, but I really, really liked it. And I didn't know how to go about like kind of implementing myself into that group and that culture, but I knew I really wanted to. And, you know, I just did kind of what came naturally to me, because I was, you know, at the time, I still found my troublemaker kids, even moving away, right? I found friends that I associate with in Ogden and got in trouble with them and gangs and all that stuff, and in trouble with the law. But I just did kind of what came natural. Is I found like the kid that everyone really, really liked. He stood out like a sore thumb in a good way. He was an athlete. He was student body. He was like the all-American kid, if you will, although we don't have those in 7th grade yet. But I just noticed that everyone really, really liked him. And I was like, that's what I want. I want to feel like that. I want people, kids, I guess at the time I should say, to like me like they like this kid. And his name's Jake Schultz. Like, I talk about him all the time because he was my very first role model, positive role model, if you will, even as a 7th grader. And I just followed this kid around. And as I was following him around, I got to befriend another kid who got sent here from Miami because he was getting in so much trouble. And he and I became really good friends. Of course, we were getting in trouble as well together. But I got introduced to his uncle who brought him out here. And he and I and his uncle and his aunt, you know, they kind of took me in as his friend, and we all hung out together. I'd come over for dinner. You know, they had me come out, and he was a military guy, and we'd go out shooting in West Desert, hunting rabbits and stuff. And it was just a really cool feeling, right? Because I never had a father figure at the time, or a family figure at that. And as things progressed, you know, this kid, Bobby from Miami, he just continued to get in trouble while I was trying to evolve and change into this other life that I thought that I really, really wanted. And he ended up getting sent back to Miami because his uncle was like, I just can't deal with him anymore. But we continued our relationship. And, you know, we spent time together. I continued to come over for dinner. They included me in family events. And, you know, by that time, you know, seventh grade had gone, eighth grade had gone. You know, eighth grade, I tried out for the track team, but my grades were too bad, and I was still mouthing off to the coaches, so I got in trouble for that. And eighth grade to ninth grade that summer, you know, I was over Bill and Barbara Henderson is their name, you know, the family that I was spending time with. And he you know, we're sitting at dinner. He's like, ever think about getting adopted? And I was like, no. So long story short, we reach out to my grandma and we all sit down for dinner and say, hey, what do you think? And, you know, I was ecstatic because that was cool, like that structure, right? And then along came, they were both Air Force, so along came also that military discipline as well. Mm-hmm. And so it played into just a perfect role or a situation for me because I still didn't have that. Although my grandma did as much as she could, there's still a lot to be had for having that mom, that dad, that structure, the discipline all in one. And at that point in time, you know, I'd gotten in so much trouble. We started trying to figure out how I can fix that with school, with local law, and just started implementing the change, started rebuilding my architecture, if you will, to fit into this new lifestyle. And, you know, he encouraged me to get, you know, involved with sports, get more involved with school, eventually took my grades from all F's and a D to a 3.7 grade average before I left junior high school. You know, my first year of track and field was ninth grade year. Loved it just because I love the camaraderie, as you know, as a coach. Just that's another family, you know. Athletic family is just something that's above and beyond. And I just loved it. I was just a sucker for it. Just an addiction, if you will. That's what I call it, an addiction and a sickness. And that's when I also got introduced to the event of the decathlon and track and field, of course. And by the time I got into high school at Roy High School, the coaches were like, man, we noticed you in junior high school and you were just, you know, over here throwing the shot put, doing the 100 meters, doing the javelin, doing the hurdles. And, you know, they said, hey, what do you think about doing the decathlon? And I was like, well, what is the decathlon?
Yeah, right.
And,
wow.
You know, of course, they're like, you know, you're the first athlete to practice and the last one to leave. And I was just like, oh, man, that sounds like a lot, you know. And at that point in time, I wanted to change my stars. So I was looking for anything to kind of, you know, set that spark for myself. And they're like, well, the decathlete's considered one of the best athletes in the world. And I was like, sold. So, you know, we jumped in and by the grace of, again, support from my grandma and support from the Hendersons, had just a phenomenal career through high school and college, post-college with the decathlon. And thankfully, you know, graduated high school, got my education at Weber State University. But obviously most of the focus at the point in time is trying to make the Olympics. So, you know, a lot of thanks to them because, again, I had every opportunity and every excuse. I want to make sure I point that out because a lot of people, you and I both as coaches in different realms, we see a lot of people create excuses on why they fail. And I had every excuse under the sun and under the moon to follow that path of continuing to get in trouble and going to jail or prison or being dead by the time I was 16. And thankfully I made a choice to follow the guidance of my grandma, my coaches, my teachers, and the Hendersons to eventually have a really successful career as an athlete and develop into hopefully a great human being.
Wow. It's amazing to think of that maturation process and the development and how you did evolve from the environment that you were so used to. And then for you to be able to accept a change with your grandmother and be in a new environment and then find out ways and what drew you in and what kind of stimulated you to aspire to something different. So there was major choices and life choices there that as you look back, you're like, my goodness, the grace of God or, you know, divine intervention or whatever it was outstanding, Bill. And to think now as you sit back and try to reflect in hindsight, wow, you know, to be a Hall of Famer at Weber State University, you know, the opportunities because of your hard work, and obviously blessed with athleticism to be a decathlete. I mean, you're talking about, different disciplines. I mean, yeah, you're a sprinter, but also your physical strength with shot put and discus and javelin. And I'm sure a lot of that was natural ability, but yet it also took a lot of hard work, training, and discipline to work to be the best at those disciplines. So kind of take us through that process, what it was like to teach yourself to be a long jumper, teach yourself to be a sprinter, and then to throw the javelin, because I mean, there are different, there are different disciplines and techniques that come with those. So can you kind of delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, kids originally get involved with sports just because it's fun or it's something their parents do, right? And for me, it was just because, again, I love the camaraderie, and I loved when I got my first taste of competition, which was ninth grade, and my first race ever was a 100-meter dash at Ogden High School. Held my breath the entire 100 meters, but I won.
Yeah, wow. So that's what, 14, 15 years old then, as a freshman.
Yeah. That and again, when I got that first taste of competition and I won my race, that was all she wrote.
It's in your blood now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in my blood. And again, I was just like, gosh, if I got that great of a feeling from the 100, wonder if I could go do this, and then if I could go do this, and it just I just started taking on all these things, which obviously led into the decathlon, right? And you know what? It was such an amazing experience and feeling to literally just take all these events, right? The 10 different events, and individually learn how to not only learn about and be educated about the sport, but learn eventually how to master that one thing, and eventually master 9 other things. And at the end of the day, then you put them all together to eventually, again, be one of the best athletes in the world in the decathlon. And I remember that, like I said, the coach is saying you're going to be the first one to practice and the last one to leave. And at first, obviously, that freaked me out because I was like, oh, it's way too much, because I want to go hang out with my friends. But it was the competition and the camaraderie that meant more to me than just going to hanging out with my friends. And that feeling of competition and feeling of winning was just so much more exciting and fun, and just, I mean, what that feeling is like to win.
Oh, for sure.
It's just, you can't replace that feeling. And so to have that opportunity to not only do that in the decathlon, but eventually being coached by such great coaches to be able to go to individual competitions and say, hey, what do we want to do this week? Well, let's do the long jump, the hurdles, and the high jump. Okay, awesome. And you just go to a competition, and there's, I don't want to take away from anything from people who focus on one thing, because there's a lot to be said about that. But for me, I just enjoy having an opportunity to have the diversity, the dynamics of being a decathlete and going to decathlon competitions, regular competitions, and doing different events, and always just changing it up. And, and it was, again, just fun. At that point for me, it was still all through high school, it was just fun. It wasn't like working out or, I've got to do this. It was just like, wow, at the end of the day, I would look at all my medals and be like, oh, I've got, a long jump one. I've got 100 meters. I got a javelin. I got a discus medal. And just cool to look at that and really look at the path and just really appreciate, what it took to get there. Not just me, but obviously coaches, grandma, Hendersons, teachers, coaches, family members that all had to help out to help that success come to fruition, right? And so,
oh wow,
it's just amazing feeling.
See, I was also a track athlete in high school myself, because I played quarterback all 4 years in high school. I played basketball, of course, but those are team sports. But for me, track was something that pushed me because it was individual, and I was going to be as good as I worked. And and you look back at it now, the thrill of competition, and as competitors, we get that with, we're on the same page, but yet, it's also triggering the dopamine and the endorphins and that thrill of competition to be involved in that. That's where it's like, wow, I just love to compete, and I want to challenge myself and make it a game within the game to be better and always best what was my previous best. So I truly get what you're saying there, because I ran the 100 and 200 and had school records in those, and then also qualified for the state in long jump. But I'm thinking about, 10, I couldn't imagine myself, because I'm just a tall, skinny, scrawny guy. I couldn't be throwing a shot put or a discus. Now javelin, because quarterback, similar but different. But I sit there I have the utmost respect for somebody who can take 10 different disciplines and be the best at those disciplines and compete at not only a state level, but national level, and then a world level. It baffles me to the amount of focus and training and the mindset that it takes to have that discipline to trigger those competitive juices to consistently be very good at it. It's phenomenal to me, Bill.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think one of the things that truly also led to that success, as you know, also, is that the foundation of all that was that I was having fun and I enjoyed the sport.
There you go.
And it never became a job, or it never became I had to go to practice. It always became something I really, really enjoyed. And when you enjoy something, it doesn't matter if it's work, relationships, sports. When you enjoy something that much, you're going to find a way to be successsul at it. And that's what I did. And that's obviously, what I've continued to do through life as well. But, even today in life, people always talk about, I'm a great multitasker, right? And for me, it honestly is true. Like, I love having my girlfriend, actually, Andrea, asked me the other day, she's like, I've noticed, like, when you have a lot of pressure and you have a lot of things going on, that's like when you rise up and shine. And I'm like, that's been me from day one, starting with the decathlon. I've just really enjoyed that world. And, even not to jump too far, into today, but, I've got, with COVID, I've had to be dynamic and switch things and start a normal, regular job, still do some of the consulting I do, still do some of the coaching I do. Just got accepted at Dartmouth Business Executive School.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
On a digital marketing degree, working on a whole nother platform for speaking and a book and a movie deal. And so, it's again, I enjoy that world. And again, it goes back to the athlete, back to the basics, as we always talk about in sports, right? It goes back to the basics of what I did to get to where I am. And I just never changed it, or never thought that I had to change it, and just continue to do the things that got me to where I was then.
Wow. So Bill, that's amazing, because I'm sitting here again. Of course, type A personalities are a type A personality, but the fact that you can multitask and keep focused on all those things and give all those 10 things, your focus, it's phenomenal. And I think it should be commended. So I have the utmost respect for individuals who have the ability and the laser-like focus to be able to do that. So I think it's phenomenal, because there's a lot of things that go with that. And as I hear you speak, I hear you talking about passion, and I hear the purpose, but yet you still have that structure. And I think we all need that structure where you got to get up, plan your work, and then work your plan, and then have something to look forward to. I hear that in what you're sharing with me. So I love that you found your passion, you found your purpose, and athletics was kind of a safe haven and a place for you to be safe, but yet also conquer and strive and continue to be better. And I love hearing that, because again, with the arenas that we have both been in, at the highest levels, it's something that is needed. You got to have that structure and the discipline and the work ethic. And those are all things that are part of why you are who you are. And thank you for sharing that. I did some research and I saw where, you, with sports and with your training and athletics, you had a severe ankle sprain, and that's kind of what introduced you into the Winter Olympics and the bobsled. Kind of take us back to that, how that ankle injury and how by fate again kind of led you to, all of a sudden finding yourself being a track athlete, and all of a sudden, well, just out of curiosity, let's go watch this bobsled training, and take us through that.
Yeah, well, I was just like any other athlete that eventually wanted to go to the big show, right? That was my 100% focus. I didn't ever think that anything else would ever happen. I never thought major injury, I never thought I'd ever do another sport.
Yeah, we're invincible as athletes, right? Not me. Look what happened to me.
Let's just admit it. Like, I honestly thought that I was invincible as an athlete. Like, I'll
we all do.
Forward. Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, this was honestly getting ready for the 2000 Sydney Olympics in track and field, Summer Olympics. I was in the best shape of my life. You know, had moved to Moscow, Idaho previous to that to train with Dan O'Brien, one of the best decathletes on the face of the planet. Eventually moved back to Ogden, Utah to train with my college coaches. And Scott, everything, it was like that year where everybody knew these guys are going to go to the show. Billy's going to go to the show, right? And we had qualified early in the year for Olympic trials. My first decathlon I did at Utah State ranked me #1 in the world.
Wow.
Later on in the year, we did another decathlon. The rest of the world had done some by then, but I was still top 5 in the world. And we were just like, this is it. You know, we finally made it, right? And so 2 weeks prior to Olympic trials, we're like, hey, let's go down to the Brigham Young University for those people outside of Utah and just do a warm-up meet, right? Let's just do, you know, doesn't have to be any sizzle. It's just warm up, you know, get the juices flowing, work on technique. And so we do, and, you know, we run the 100 meters. And, you know, and it was like 11.2. Like I'm normally a 10.6 100-meter guy. But again, it doesn't matter. We were just going through the motions. And, you know, 100 meters, next event's the long jump, which is one of my events. I, you know, jumped 25 feet individually, which is pretty decent for a young kid from Roy.
That's amazing.
It had happened to be raining that day. And, you know, I got my marks in the long jump. We're all prepared. Again, just relax. And I come running down the long jump board. And, of course, as you know, when you jump, it's heel to toe. My heel hits the track. It slides. My foot hits the board, but it had already rotated. So my spikes catch, and so goes the rest of my ankle. Face plant into the sand. I knew something really, really bad had happened. Just wasn't quite sure. You know, coaches come running over, teammates come running over, and I'm like, get the trainers. And, you know, this is a good example of going into panic mode because we lost focus on what we were really there to do because we should have stopped right then and there. But we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Get the trainer, you know, shoot his ankle up with nerving agent, wrap it up in cast. Let's go get ready for the shot put, right? So we went into complete panic mode, and I was a rotator in the shot put, so I pivoted on that ankle quite a bit, so that didn't help it out. You know, we ho-hum a mark, and then we're like, okay, well, let's get ready for the high jump, right? And, you know, this just takes me back because it's so, you know, the memory is so clear of me standing on the apron at BYU trying to figure out how I'm going to jump. It's still raining. How am I going to jump off this ankle and at least get a mark? And so, you know, I typically opened up at like anywhere from 6 feet to like 6'4" in the high jump. We're like, let's just get a mark. We're in panic mode. We should have just stopped a long time ago. So we drop it down to like 5'6" or something ridiculous. And, you know, we go through the motions. I remember that first jump, boom, and it just was like a bomb going off in my ankle. I flopped through the bar, land on the pads, bars on my back, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's like the worst pain I've ever experienced. So because we're in panic mode, 2 more times, right? And the third one, boom, same thing, knocked the bar over. I'm laying on the pads, and I just remember looking up at the sky and the raindrops on my face, along with, you know, the cold rain. And then I start feeling the warm tears coming out of my eyes because at that point in time, I realized we'd done so much damage that there's no way we're going to make the Olympic trials in 2 weeks. And, you know, I basically just put my tail between my legs, told coach I was done, walked off, and went home. And you know what? You and I know that the universe works in really weird, mysterious ways. And I'm a big fan. I've posted this quote on some of my social media before that when opportunity knocks, at least open the door to see what's there. And that's exactly what happened. It happened to be a friend of a friend of a friend, you know, 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
somebody knew somebody who was a bobsled driver. And when they presented this idea, I was like, what is bobsled? Like, I had no idea even that their winter sports even existed. In fact, the only sports I even really knew was track and field and football, because that's all I did. And so I was just like, what are you talking about, bobsled? And of course, they were like, oh my gosh, bobsled, you know, like Cool Runnings. Just like you, I was introduced to the sport via Cool Runnings. And so I remember watching the movie, and I was like, oh, you know, kind of looks interesting. And I'm like, but am I going to like slide for Jamaica? Like, what's, and as we continue to talk about it, we started getting serious about it. And they showed me a video of Team USA, one of the best brakemen in U.S. history, Pavle Jovanovic, pushing in St. Moritz, Switzerland. And that's where I really had an opportunity to catch a glimpse of the horsepower, the speed, the explosion of the sport itself. And I was like, that looks really interesting.
Wow.
And it started transforming into a story of like, what if we could really write our own story? What if we could actually build our architecture exactly the way we wanted to? Yeah, we failed to make the Summer Olympics, but the goal was just to be an Olympian. It didn't matter.
Just get in the show.
Track and field, badminton, didn't matter, you know, just to go to the show. And we're like, how cool would that be, honestly, if we could write this story that you grew up on the streets of Salt Lake City, Utah, homeless, drug addiction, foster care, turns your life around 360 to then go to the Olympic Games here in Salt Lake City. And again, mind you, I still had no idea that there were Winter Olympics. Again, just introduced to bobsled for the first time. And I was like, well, I don't ski. I don't do men's pairs figure skating. But it was an opportunity. We're like, how cool would that be if we wrote that story from the streets of Salt Lake City to the Olympic podium in Salt Lake City? And we all just like literally sat around. I remember looking at my coaches and stuff, and we're like, we've got nothing to lose. Why not? Let's just go for it. And so, you know, again, mind you, this was a year and 3 months before the Olympics.
Yeah.
So, you know, imagine taking some kid from professional soccer and throwing him into the NBA a year and 3 months before the championships next year and saying, I need you to be the man on the team at the championships next year. Very unheard of. You know,
Yeah.
possible, actually, right? And so,
Wow.
you know, it was a huge mountain to climb, but we just came from it like we don't have anything to lose, and all we got to do is take everything we had in track and field, pull it out of this bucket, and dump it over into this bobsled bucket, and let's just go and see what happens, right? And,
Wow.
you know, I just became a student of the sport first and foremost, and I think that's what truly helped is I just became a student of the game, and had success really right away. Didn't even push a sled for 3 months, just literally learned about the sport, watched the coaches, watched the athletes, learned how to work on the sled, learned how they trained. And lo and behold, a year and 3 months later, found myself on the #1 USA team in the world, on the Olympic team, and winning the first Olympic medal for the U.S. in over 46 years.
See, that's so inspiring because, again, you had an opportunity. An opportunity was taken away from you because of an injury. And then, ironically, the individual, you replaced somebody because of a failed test. And then you got an opportunity. And then through that hard work and discipline to, you know, use your God-given athletic ability, but yet the training to go from a sprinter to a pusher, and then the discipline to learn how to get in, to get the aerodynamics. And then you start thinking about that. Wow, at the highest level in world-class competition, we spoke about this when we had lunch, you know, prior to Christmas, and like 100th of a second could just be a shift in the wind, or let's talk about that, because the details of that to me, Bill, are just like, wow, but what an amazing opportunity that you were given because of your hard work and focus to take that opportunity, and then to get the opportunity because another team member wasn't able to pass the test. You come in with the team. Is it Todd Hayes who was the pilot of that team? And so who kind of took you in as like, hey, let's be the mentor to really teach Bill what we need from him to be a part of this team of bobsled. Kind of take us through that process.
Yeah, so honestly, for the first year, again, I was just trying to figure things out. My original driver in the bobsled was a gentleman out of Indiana named Bruce Roselli. He's very well known in the bobsled.
I'm an Indiana boy, so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So our first bobsled had Indianapolis Speedway on it and all sorts of cool stuff. But, so in reality, Bruce was my first mentor, so I had an opportunity to learn a lot from him. But I excelled really, really quick because, again, being a student of the sport first and foremost, and then as I started getting more eyes on me from USA 1, USA 2, USA 3, wow. I again, remember I saying that I had an opportunity to watch the best brakeman, Pavle Jovanovic, for the U.S. team. And by this time, I had met Pavle and just was like, hey, back like in junior high when I saw that kid, I was like, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
He was just a force, and everybody in the world knew about Pavle. And he and I connected and just really hit it off really, really well because he's super intense. He's strictly business when it comes to his training, his nutrition, and sports. And we were very similar. I'm the same way when it comes to competition. It's all business. I mean, I have fun, don't get me wrong.
Right,
but I'm pretty intense as an athlete. And you know what? He just kind of took me under his wing for the most part. And
that's awesome.
He and I worked out together in the gym. We ate together. We trained in bobsled together. Lo and behold, he was the one who actually didn't pass the test. And so I ended up replacing Pavle. So I ended up replacing my mentor on the team. But I just carried on that what's the word?
You kind of the proverbial torch was passed, right?
Yeah. So I carried on the torch, the flag, with Pavle in my heart, and it was amazing that as a track and field athlete, I was fast and I was strong. But when it went from that to actually the Olympic team and training with athletes that were at Olympic level, I then became faster and stronger. And so. It was just amazing to realize my potential that I still had that I didn't know I had. But again, I keep saying that being a student of the sport, really helped out and not letting my ego from, track and field, not that I really had one, but not letting any of those things cloud my judgment or cloud my decisions or cloud my ability to learn from all these other athletes. And so that really helped me really find success really fast in the sport of bobsled and continue on for the next 3 Olympics after that.
And see, Bill, what I hear from that is the parallel, because I hear your curiosity of wanting to learn from the best. And then I think that's the same way Kobe Bryant was around Michael Jordan. Whenever he could get around Michael Jordan and sit and pick his mind or be around coaches who coached Michael Jordan so Kobe could steal from them so that way he could put those tools in his toolbox and have that repertoire. That's what it takes. And you had that same curiosity. You had that same drive. You wanted to learn and you wanted to absorb and you were able to be around the best. So you learned from the best. But yet then I sit there and think too, wow, Bill, you go from being a world-class sprinter and now you've got to be a world-class sprinter on the ice and push a sled. Wow.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. And that all started back even when I ran track and field. I would learn from, in sports as well as as well as I do too. A lot of people are like, oh, don't listen to that coach or don't listen to that athlete. I was like, no, I'm going to listen to everybody and I'm going to put all this stuff in my tool bag and I'm going to try them all out and figure out what works for me. And then I'm going to take what works for me and then I'm going to go out and perfect it. And I'm going to keep learning and perfecting, keep learning and perfecting. And that's what helped, lead me to my success in sports. It's the same thing I do in life and business as well, is learn from all the very, very best on the planet, figure out what works for me, experiment with it, work it out, and then master it, and then go out and perform. And it's
great life lessons.
Oh man, it's been such a blessing to be able to have that and be able to do that and be able to learn from other people and figure out what works best for me. And, you know, if you know as well as I do, if everybody could do that, oh my gosh, what would the world look like today?
But like you said, you put that ego aside and you had that curiosity and you wanted to learn. And so again, you picked their brain. So no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what type of business owner you're in, or like you said, in personal relationships, if you want to be the best, you know, learn from others and learn from your mistakes and don't repeat your mistakes. I think it is amazing. And I'm glad that you're sharing this because, again, our viewers and listeners, I think there's a lot of nuggets to be taken from this. And who best to learn it from than from a guy who's been there, done that, and had to do that and relearn something. Wow.
And you know what? And still doing it today, right? I'm 47 years old, and there's a lot of people out there that even before 47 or after 47 is like, oh, it's too late for me to learn. It's too late for me to change. I'm going to school right now, working a full-time job, which I have to actually learn like structural engineering, going to business executive school, getting a degree in digital marketing, in a brand new relationship. We started off going to couples therapy right away from day one, you know, and it's like, you're never too late to learn from the world that's right there in front of you. You know, take advantage of that, you know, take advantage of it. So
good for you. Good for you.
You know, they always say old dogs can't learn new tricks, and I'm saying BS on that. I'm getting an old dog, and I'm learning new tricks every single day. So.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Well, let's now take the viewers to what it's like to be on the ice representing the United States, and you're here in Salt Lake City, which is home, which is wonderful, but yet now you've got that proverbial torch from your friend, and now you're pushing the sled for Team USA. Take us through what that feels like and what you would do to get yourself mentally prepared to grab a hold of that sled and push it down the ice and jump in. And now you're thinking aerodynamics and learning the turns and the visualizations and know where you got to be. Take us through that process. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even talking about that moment gives me chills and starts bringing
I'm getting fired up right now, ready to hear it.
Man, I'll tell you what, it does not ever get old. You know, I first off, I want to let everyone out there know that, you know, the reason that I found that success is because just like you've heard Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant say it, is I have practiced that moment in time so many times before that by the time I got to the Olympic Games, I just did exactly what got me there. And it was actually easier than the practices that I've been in and day out.
Wow.
And, you know, I remember, you know, clearly, if I can, I'll even take you through that exact moment. I'm up at the Olympic Games. It's competition day. I'm warming up, and it's a sunny day, and I can see thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the mountainside getting ready to run a race. I know that all the cameras are here, all the cameras are there. There's billions of people watching around the world, family, friends, every excuse to be like super nervous, right? And potentially not make it happen. But the other thing I want people to know is not only had I practiced it physically thousands of times, mentally, I've been on that place thousands of times. So it wasn't new to me. I have visualized all the people. I have visualized the camera. I visualized the pressure. I visualized what it was going to be like for me to walk out, flip that sled over with my teammates, see my teammates, my coaches, the people, visualize that a zillion times. That, again, when I went out there and did it, it was just absolutely normal. And you know, I remember walking out, getting ready for the race, and you can hear the chant, Team USA's up, people screaming USA, the cowbells dingling, right? And you're just like, you just know if you've done everything that you needed to do to be in that position, you know that you are supposed to be there at that moment in time. And I knew 100% there was no way that I was coming away from this competition without winning some color of a medal. I just knew it before we started the competition. And I don't say that to be like cocky or anything.
No.
It's just, again, I knew that I had done everything I needed to do. I had prepared every way, shape, and form that I could have to be right then and there and have an honor to win an Olympic medal for the U.S. And so
Wow.
I remember, again, you know, we walk up to the starting line and it is absolute chaos all around me. But I had like this bubble, as we call it, the zone, you know, and I just remember, you know, we're up, and as loud as it was, as much chaos was going on, in my mind, it was dead silent.
Wow.
Absolutely dead silent. And, you know, we go through our, you know, normal stuff that we've trained for 1,000 times. They flip the sled over. The team's ready to go. You know, our brakeman, Garrett Hines, calls back set. The driver calls front set. Boom, off we go. And you just know you're feeling every twitch, every muscle fiber, every heartbeat that you have 100% control of. And you're like, I'm just going to accelerate faster. I'm going to put more energy into it. And why? Because I can, because I've done it 1,000 times. And we go, we have a perfect load, we get in, and as soon as we're all settled, cowbells and cheers, like out of nowhere, just pop up again. And you're just like, wow.
Getting chills, man. I'm getting chills.
You can hear the cowbells like, and the cheers, USA, and people screaming. And, you know, we obviously go through and do that twice that day. At the end of the day, we're in first place. And I'm just like, you know, I know that I belong here, but when you're in first place, you're in the world at the Olympic Games, you're like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah. Bill, seriously, I've got chills hearing you describe that. But here's what I also want to share with the viewers and listeners. Father Time is undefeated, but the great ones know how to slow it down. And because of your training and because of your preparation and because of your mindset and your focus and your chemistry with your teammates, that's how you were able to excel and slow down that clock to make all your movements feel like slow motion, to be in that sled. And then now, you know, now it's about the leans, and now it's about the turns, and now it's about staying aerodynamic. And then again, hundredths of a second can make the difference between first, second, third place. I mean, wow. I mean, just think about that. You were able to maximize at that moment and slow down the clock because of your preparation, and yet live in that moment and soak it all in. And to be after day one in first place in the world, my man, that's an elite 1%, because not very many people can say that they've done that.
And it's, you know, and it's, again, I'm so blessed to have had the lifestyle and do the things I've been able to do in life. And, you know, if we can, I want to take people to day two, because what a great lesson to learn that you're number one in the world at the Olympic Games in a competition of your life, possibly getting ready to win an Olympic gold medal or any medal of any color. And, you know, again, so day two shows up. You know, we did what we had to do that night, team meeting, got the sled ready, got our bodies ready, got our mindset ready. And we show up day two and it's snowing. So just so people know, in bobsled, your runners, or people that don't know the sport call them blades, you have specific runners or blades for every situation. If it's freezing cold outside and it's dry, you have runners for that. If it's, you know, sunny and some humidity, we got runners for that. If it's snowing and humid, we've got runners. You have runners for every situation. Well, our runners that we had picked for that competition were for sunny, cold days. They were not set up for snowy, cold days. And we were like, well, you know, we're good. Our runners were called psychos. They were our gambling type runners that, you know, if they go, they are going to fly. So, you know, it's snowing on the track. And again, it doesn't matter, because we're all the athletes, all the sleds, it's snowing for everyone, right? And we go down, and I thought it was the best run that we had so far. I was like, oh man, we got done. And I remember looking at the clock, and I was like, wait a minute, those numbers don't correlate with what we've been doing. And lo and behold, we fell out of medal contention on our third run. So of course, you know, there's concern, there's people freaking out. We're kind of freaking out, like going, oh my gosh, we just blew it. How is it even possible? We were first place, and now we're not even in medal contention. You know, you could feel the air completely sucked out of the whole mountain of American fans. Like, what just happened? And you know what? This is such a great point, because you remember in track when I was getting ready for the Olympics, and we went into panic mode, right? And did more damage. Well, this time you know, when you could have went into panic mode because you're at the Olympic Games, we literally just sat back, and I remember Todd Hayes pulled the three of us, all four of us together, and said, "Hey guys, listen, we're at the Olympic Games. We're one of the best teams in the world. I don't even know what just happened, and I don't really care, but we have prepared again to be here at this point in time. And, you know, we're just going to go back up on top of this mountain and do exactly what we came here to do, and put together the very best run that we could possibly put together, and let's just see what happens." And
Wow.
you know, so instead of taking an attitude like, "Oh my gosh, what happened? Poor me," victim mentality, we just said, "Hey, no, we're going to go up there and kick some butt and make this happen," right? You see it in basketball games where the air's sucked out of a team. And,
yeah, momentum switch. Yeah.
Right? Complete momentum switch. And we were like, we're not going to let that happen. And so, you know, we just go up there with the mentality that we're still going to win this competition, and we're still in it. And we go up there, and lo and behold, we do exactly what we did that got us to the show, and we put together the best run we possibly could, and end up, again, coming away with the first Olympic silver medal the U.S. has ever won in 46 years.
Wow. You know what? Again, you hear you were prepared, you executed your game plan, and you competed at the highest level. And now think about that. You got a silver medal, and you lost the silver medal by how much time?
15 hundredths of a second.
Okay, so 15 hundredths of a second. Let's share what that is. What is 15 hundredths of a second at a world-class level?
So for those, for those who don't know, NASCAR guys are going to know this for sure, people in the racing world. So we're doing 4 runs over 2 days on a mile-long track at 90+ miles per hour, right? So 15 hundredths of a second, because we actually did the math and we actually went through the whole thing, ends up being, when you accumulate all the runs, it ends up being about that much in distance.
Wow.
So
wow.
Germany won, and we were this far behind them. Which,
wow.
you know, when you talk about photo finish, it's hard to separate, you know, a 13-foot sled with 4 guys in it going 95 miles per hour from here to there.
Wow. Bill, it's an amazing story, because think about it. It could have been the wind that changed a little bit. It could have been a little bit of extra snow on you know, a certain curve. I mean, who knows? But yeah. When you think about just that much of a difference between gold and silver at the highest level, it's still a phenomenal story. I mean, here we are, you know, you're in foster care, your mom, you know, your environment that you grew up in, and now you're putting a silver medal around your neck representing the Stars and Stripes of the USA in Salt Lake City at your home. What a phenomenal story, man. What a phenomenal story that you've been a part of.
Oh, thanks, God. And, you know, you'll hear me say it a million times, and I've been so blessed. And, you know, my only hope is to, you know, be somewhat of a role model or example to others out there that may be going through some adversity in life, or getting ready for the biggest competition in their life, or, you know what, they're at the bottom of their barrel of their life, because I've been at all of them throughout my career, both in sports as well as life, and have always found a way to overcome it and find a way to succeed. And you know, that's what life's about, you know, is we get to know each other more. And obviously we have a lot of mutual friends, especially our good friend, John Absey.
Yes, sir. He's the best.
You know, you're on your thing, it talks about service, right? Serve, empower. And that's what I'm 100% all about, is, you know, coming from a place of service. And the more people and organizations I have an opportunity to help and impact, then I'm doing my job that I was meant to do here on this earth. And, you know, it is what it is, because, you know, people could look at part of my life, you know, like I mentioned, you know, years ago, I was a keynote speaker for a Verizon corporate event, and 5,000 of their executives. And I finish up the event, and this guy asks, one of the executives asks in the Q&A, He's like, aren't you so frustrated and upset at how, the life that your mom, took you through? And, what seemed like forever today on stage in front of 5,000 executives, I just blurted out, hey, if it wasn't for the life my mom put me through, I wouldn't be the athlete and the man I am today.
There you go. So true. So true.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No, I just love everything that you're saying. And I feel like we got to have you come back to share more insight because, our show is all about serve, empower, and inspire. And you encapsulated all those things for our viewers and listeners today. And I think you even do a podcast now with some friends. How can people find Bill? And because you're on social media, but let people know where to find you and how to locate you and how to hire you for speaking engagements. Share that with our viewers.
Yeah. So the easiest way to get in contact with me, obviously I'm on Facebook all the time. So Bill Schuffenhauer, anywhere on Facebook. Have speaks.com. And, I have people message me all the time, whether it's just for tidbits of information or they want to hire for a corporate event or they're looking for a coach personally or with their executive team. And I'm not the guy that like when somebody like, oh, hey, I got a question for you. I'm like, oh, well, hey, we got to go through the whole process. It just hit me up. Like I'm more than happy to help anyone out. If I have some information or experience that they might relate to that can help them out in reality, I'll just let you know it's also going to help me out just going through that and talking through things and figuring out a way how to excel in life in one shape or another.
Bill, I love it, man. I thank the world of you. We've only known each other for a short time, but you're the kind of people I want to surround myself with. We uplift each other, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your time today and sharing your story and sharing your journey, because if we can positively affect one person who's viewing or listening, we've done our job. But I know that if people take the time, and I implore them to share this content, you're going to inspire and uplift and hopefully guide and direct other lives out there, my friend.
No, I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you very, very much. And hats off to your career, man. That's phenomenal what you've done too and what you continue to do. And it's, again, people like us that are just willing to be vulnerable enough to throw our stuff out there for the world to know and hopefully help, again, like you said, even if it's one person, then we're doing our job. And, you keep doing that and hopefully we have an opportunity to change some things in the world here today.
Well, let's get together soon, Bill. God bless you. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I need to go hit the gym with you because you're carrying some guns, man. I'm just a skinny, follically challenged dude, man. I got to hit the gym with you, brother. Oh, man.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you very, very much.
All the best. Everybody, again, that's Bill, and world-class athlete, world-class person. Can't thank him enough for being a part of our show. Tune in again soon as we continue to bring outstanding guests on our show to serve, empower, and inspire you and help put tools in your toolbox. Bill, bless you, my friend. Thank you so much again for your time. Stay following us for more exciting and interesting insight and content. God bless and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Bring it in. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production. Don't forget to subscribe to the Coach's YouTube channel. Like and follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have yourself dressed and ready to go in the locker room for the next exciting show coming soon. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production.